Ladies and gentlemen, for 4 years, all we heard was Trump worked with Russia, and then that didn't work out, so then he pressured Zelensky, and then that didn't work out, and then he was directly responsible for mayhem, and nobody has accused him in a court of law. They just said, well, he compelled people to do horrendous things, but they didn't accuse him or level any charges or indictments in court. Then they said, well, his tax returns are the holy grail of corruption. They still haven't found anything. Now, will they indict him? It's possible. They're going after their direct political rivals. So you heard for 4 years, in addition to he did this, he did that, which he never did, because there's not a shred of evidence that he did anything. Colluded with Russia, there never was. There should never have been an investigation, but they went after their direct political rivals. They are guilty of everything they accuse Trump of. It's unbelievable. But again, you have a public relations machine monstrosity. MSNBC, CNN, the Washington Post, the New York Times, and pretty much every publication out there, aside from 4 or 5 conservative publications, saying that Trump is guilty of something, we just don't know what. And they're going to find something. They don't care, by the way, if he did obstruct justice in an investigation that should never have been started. The Mueller probe should never have been started. It was a completely fabricated, political stunt. Russia didn't interfere in 2016. Not one vote was altered. Where were the votes that were altered? You spent 4 years, Democrats, complaining. And then Trump has to trust everything. Oh my God, the post-truth moment, as you've lied for 4 years. But they don't really care if he's guilty. So that's number one. They're going to indict their direct political rival, possibly, probably, because they have a virtual monopoly on thought, political thought, media coverage, all of Hollywood, social media. They have tremendous advantages right now at this very moment. It's not going to last, because what will take place is, if they actually do indict Trump on some trumped up accusation or charge pertaining to his tax returns. So they couldn't get him on anything. They couldn't get him on anything for 4 years. So they might get him on something he did within his tax returns 10 years ago or 5 years ago. New York, the Southern District, the extension, literally an extension of the Democratic Party. Okay? When Democrats or the left says, look at the systemic injustices why don't you look at Rikers Island in New York? Why don't you look at the district attorneys in New York that were part of a corrupt and unfair and unjust system? Why don't you look at what takes place in Democratic-run states, who, by the way, had the worst pandemic outcomes by far, highest per capita rates, greatest amount of lives lost, according to the New York Times statistics. Go look at the numbers. Yet Democrats pontificate the most about everything. But here, Florida officials are preparing contingency plans for a Trump indictment from New York, report says. So they want to get him on either his tax returns or the absurd idea that he tried to obstruct the Mueller probe, which should never have taken place because the intelligence operatives lied. They never had a true reason to investigate Trump. There was not a shred of evidence. Not one person was indicted on Russia collusion. Not one. People were indicted because they were entrapped and ensnared. Because Peter Strzok, who was kicked off of the Mueller probe, here we go. Peter Strzok, who was kicked off of the Mueller probe, he was literally fired from the FBI because of his text messages saying that he wanted to stop Trump and that Trump voters were smelly and that Trump was a menace. And other agents also stated that we could have done more to stop him. Kevin Kleinsmith, who was indicted. But they went after everyone around Trump. They're still going after Giuliani for what they should go after Hunter Biden. They're trying to indict Trump when they covered up Madam Secretary's crimes. She should have been indicted. They didn't do that. And they'll probably, look, if they do this, if they end up indicting Trump on some obscure tax issue, because nobody really understands why they're going after him. There's 3 criminal investigations, and they're all political in nature. There's nothing that he... Hit subscribe to this channel, by the way, because I'm going to give you some context regarding this whole thing. They need to... what they need to do is accuse and level every single allegation, go after Trump as much as possible, so their actual crimes are overlooked. Clinton had top secret intelligence on servers running outside of the United States government. You'd have to be an imbecile to think that's okay. You would have to be completely ignorant of politics and of cybersecurity. I'm not like this amazing... I know very little about computers, but I can tell you that servers outside of the United States government with SAP intel and top secret intelligence is really bad for national security. I can tell you that if Democrats blame Russia for hacking into everything they own, from the Congressional Committee to the Clinton Foundation to the DNC, that they're probably not very good from a cybersecurity perspective at keeping their secrets safe or government secrets safe. I don't think Putin really fears the Democratic Party. Russia doesn't fear Democrats. That's also this... You would have to be completely ignorant of world history, geopolitics, to think that Russia fears the Democratic Party. President Obama did nothing when they invaded Ukraine. Bush did nothing when they invaded Georgia. Biden did nothing when there were, over 100,000 Russian soldiers on the border of Ukraine. We're not going to do anything because we went through 50 years of a Cold War with mutually assured destruction, because of nukes pointed at one another, and they're kind of still pointed at one another. And in a moment's notice, they can be, quote, pointed at one another. Nuclear annihilation is infinitely a greater issue, infinitely more of an existential issue than climate change, which is important. But climate change, there's no date the world's going to end. The world can end tomorrow if the U.S. and Russia get into a cataclysmic confrontation. That we know. There is an end date to the world, an expiration date, if both Russia and the United States actually get into a catastrophic military confrontation, which, by the way, Democrats didn't care about. They just wanted to foment Cold War hysteria because they experienced the greatest political slaughter in decades, maybe ever, at the hands of Trump. They want retribution and revenge. He didn't do anything. They can't even... They're saying that he inflated the value of his holdings. Okay, that's an issue generally for Deutsche Bank or the lender to complain about. But the Deutsche Bank and his other banks never complained. They never said anything. It was the Southern District and MSNBC and others that said, hey, we have something, it's taxes. They haven't, we don't even, this is how much of a criminal Trump is. We don't even specifically know what he did. Inflating the value of your real estate holdings is very subjective and ambiguous charge. People who own massive real estate holdings, or, they're real estate moguls, they very likely could have a more accurate or less accurate, but it's up for debate as to the value of a certain property. It's always up for debate. When you buy a home, you can say, well, it's not worth this much, or the seller can demand more. So that's a very ambiguous allegation. Similar to, he downplayed the pandemic. Like, Democrats apparently upplayed or took it so seriously they ended up with the worst outcomes, according to the New York Times statistics. So, I mean, what they want to do is create as much suspicion as they want to insult him and demean him and ensure that he doesn't run again, and do everything possible from a public relations perspective. Oh, he's an indicted president. He's facing criminal charges. Clinton deserved it. He doesn't. That's the issue. Clinton had servers with top secret intel. Hunter Biden, deserves the scrutiny. We don't know directly if there's pay to play, but they're actually in his emails. There is no equivalent. There are no Trump emails. There's no direct correlation between criminality and anything with Trump. They say Trump Foundation. Go look at the Clinton Foundation and the endless pay-to-play schemes. 500 conflicts of interest in the campaign emails. What if there were 500 conflicts of interest that somebody in Trump's organization actually wrote about in emails? You think maybe they'd be used against Trump? They cover up their actual crimes, level accusations, and just find something on Trump. So they might do that. They might go ahead and do that right now. I don't know. But the buzz is that it's going to happen. Now, they need the Southern District as an extension of the Democratic Party. You don't have that type of extension with Democrats, or you don't have that. You don't have an actual district going to bat or doing the dirty work of Republicans. But the Southern District of New York, one of the top district attorneys, had the Clinton Foundation case, found nothing apparently. Uranium One giving millions into the Clinton Foundation, and then miraculously President Obama not vetoing a deal. Even Snopes said only President Obama could have vetoed the sale. You literally have money from the Kremlin into the Clinton Foundation, or from a company that's eventually owned by the Kremlin into the Clintons' charitable philanthropic foundation, and they found nothing. They found nothing wrong while she was Secretary of State. Or no, before she was Secretary of State, but while she was Secretary of State, donations increased exponentially. And donations from countries increased exponentially. And weapons deals and arms deals increased exponentially, even more so than the Bush administration. President Obama was even more hawkish in many ways than Bush, which is why I vote Trump. I voted Trump, and I would vote Trump again. Even if Trump is indicted, that's a public relations stunt. I would definitely vote for him again. They should have indicted Clinton, and Bernie Sanders should have been the nominee in 2016. But again, you can't expect the left or Democrats to think logically. It's always within their little fantasy world they create that they prop up with every single possible advantage. And still they can't find anything. So let's see. I mean, I don't think they really care about putting him in jail or prison. I think they really just want to, from a public relations perspective, go after him, try to say that he committed some crime, when everyone on the planet knows they're utilizing the government against Trump again. They're going to turn him into a greater martyr than he's already viewed as by millions of Americans. Give me your thoughts below. And Trump is the Obi-Wan Kenobi of politics. They go after him with an indictment, it'll just make him stronger than ever.